Former Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida has clinched a ruling Liberal Democratic Party leadership race, and this win has virtually ensured Kishida to succeed Suga as Prime Minister of Japan within days. We will be examining Japan elections very closely on Midday Prime. We will also be keeping an eye on Punjab politics on the domestic front, besides how numbers are stacked at the COVID front nationally and internationally. But first up, headlines. Fumio Kishida all set to become the Prime Minister of Japan. Kishida wins race to lead Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Kishida won a runoff against Vaccine Minister Taro Kono with 257 votes to 170. Back home, rift widens in Congress in Punjab. Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi calls cabinet meeting a day after Navjot Singh Sidhu resigned as the Punjab Congress president. Country reports daily new cases less than 20,000 for second consecutive day. Active cases account for less than 1% of total cases. India's cumulative vaccination coverage crosses 87 crore 66 lakh. In international news, North Korea confirms the projectile fired off its east coast on Tuesday as newly developed hypersonic missile calls on the US and South Korea to scrap their double standards on weapons programs to restart diplomatic talks. Lionel Messi scores his first goal for the PSG to beat Manchester City in an enthralling Champions League group game. Debutant Sheriff Tiraspol upstages 13-time European champions Real Madrid. And let's begin Midday Prime with the big story. Former Foreign Minister of Japan Fumio Kishida has won a ruling Liberal Democratic Party leadership race, a victory that virtually ensures that he will succeed Yoshihide Suga as the Prime Minister within days. Now, in an acceptance speech, Kishida vowed to lead a transformed party in a general elections due within weeks and continue to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, which has battered Japan's economy. Kishida defeated former Defense and Foreign Minister Taro Kono, seen as an outspoken maverick, in a second-round runoff votes. Also, two female contenders, Sanae Takaichi, 60 years of age, and Seiko Noda, 61 years of age, they dropped out after the first round. And as new leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, or NDP, Kishida is certain to be elected as the next Prime Minister of Japan on Monday in Parliament, where his party and coalition partner actually control the entire house. And as we stay with these visuals, let's also have a look at the political journey of Fumio Kishida, who is all set to become the new Prime Minister of Japan.
Japan's former Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida has won the ruling party's leadership election, virtually ensuring that he will become the country's next Prime Minister. The 65-year-old won the party's leadership vote, defeating popular vaccine chief Taro Kono. This is not the first time Kishida has contested in the party's leadership election. Last year, he lost to Yoshihide Suga in the Liberal Democratic Party's presidential race. A 9-term member of the House of Representatives, Kishida was also a close aide of Shinzo Abe, Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister, and was in charge of foreign affairs for more than 4 years under his leadership. A graduate from the School of Law, Waseda University, Kishida has served in various ministerial roles. He became Minister of Consumer Affairs and Minister for Space Policy in the year 2008 in the Fukuda cabinet. In 2007, he had been appointed as Minister of State for Okinawa and Northern Territories Affairs, Science and Technology Policy, Quality of Life Policy and Regulatory Reform. Kishida was elected to the House of Representatives for the first time in the year 1993 and became Parliamentary Vice Minister for Construction 6 years later in the year 1999. He was again chosen as the Parliamentary Vice Minister for Construction in the year 2000. Before entering active politics, he served as Secretary to a member of the House of Representatives. As Kishida is said to become the new Prime Minister of Japan, it is to be seen if he will deliver on his promise of spending big on new pandemic stimulus and tackling income inequality. Bureau Report, DD India.
So as Kishida is all poised to become the next Prime Minister of Japan, we're going to put in perspective what does it mean for the third largest economy of the world and examine this deeply, his elevation as the next Prime Minister at this juncture when Japan continues to battle COVID and economy woes as well. Ambassador Tayal, former senior diplomat, is joining us on the show to explain this. Yes. Thank you very much, Ambassador Tayal. Welcome to Midday Prime. First things first, how does this augur for Japan? And though the race for the top post was quite unpredictable because the power centers were fragmented in their choice there in Japan. But how do you see Kishida's elevation? Has this come on expected lines? And what does this mean for Japan at this point when they're battling COVID and much more?
Yes, Japan is facing many challenges, both domestic and regional. Economy has been practically under stagnation for quite a long time. COVID-19 challenge again and again. There is resurgence of COVID infection which has greatly affected Chinese economy in PP. Then unpopularity of Olympics was there. China's ever-growing challenge the Japanese leadership has to deal with. North Korea has been firing missiles. We have seen a third missile was fired today. And Indo-Pacific, we know how the situation is becoming alarming because of Chinese belligerence. In this, Japan is a very strong economy. It has a very strong self-defense force. And it has a power for peace and stability in Indo-Pacific. And it is unfortunate that their very strong leader, Shinzo Abe, who was Prime Minister since 2012, had to resign in 2020 because of health reasons. And after that, Prime Minister Suga came, he could not really deal with the pressures and he has resigned. But now the new elected leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, who will become automatically Prime Minister because the LDP has majority in the House of Representatives. He is a strong leader. He is very experienced. He has been a member or a representative like our member of parliament since 1993. And he has had ministries across the board of economy, strategy, and he was foreign minister for 5 years.
Yes.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. He has also been familiar with India, and he had come to India in 2015 for the 8th Japan-India Strategic Dialogue. So I would say that under the circumstances, it is a very good choice to lead Japan, and he is strong, he is experienced, and he is young.
Okay, strong, experienced, young, and has a body of work behind him. Talking about that, Ambassador Tayal, he was also a close aide of Shinzo Abe. But if you look at his acceptance speech and the recent statements, especially vis-a-vis the economic revival of Japan blueprint, he seems to have the inclination is towards increasing the economy or the income of the household, not economy, the income of the households. Pretty much in contrast with what Shinzo Abe was more inclined towards big industrial houses and the profits of which, according to him, would percolate to the daily wage workers. would we get to see more of Abenomics in his governance, or it's going to be something out of the box, because now Japan is facing domestic challenges, and we'll come to the China angle a little later, but what's the sense that you are getting about his governance?
The analysis which is coming in international media, Japanese media, is that Mr. Fumio Kishida is a representative of the old guard, of the established groups in the Liberal Democratic Party, and also represents the big business. So ultimately the economic progress of Japan depends on the success of the big business, because the GDP has been growing not more than 1% a year, and that also after a lot of money was infused in the economy by Shinzo Abe, by getting deficit budgeting, but it has not worked very well because of the COVID onslaught. So the challenges before Japanese economy are very great, as they are with the other global economies. It is not something very specific to Japan, but it has a population which is declining. So the overall purchasing power of the Japanese household has been stagnating for many years. They have an aging population, so the people who contribute to social security, etc., that numbers are declining, whereas the pension and health and other benefits, for that the strain on the economy is increasing. But ultimately, growth will bring more jobs and more contribution to the national economy and national budget. So I feel that Fumio Kishida will follow a conservative path, and he will not take any very ambitious measures to drive the Japanese economy.
That's a very, that's a very important point that you've raised, Ambassador Tayal. He would follow a conservative path, but would that conservative path be also followed vis-a-vis China at this juncture? How do you look at the relationship now?
The Japanese, I would think that the foreign policy of Japan and their concerns about China will remain, and they will continue to be addressed. But we all know the Japanese economic dependence on China, exposed to China. But over the years, Japan has been a strong member of Quad, of Malabar exercises, and I do not foresee that any weakness in that strong stance of Japan in trying to hedge its bets and see that the Indo-Pacific remains stable and does not get dominated by one power. China also have issues, Senkaku Island,
yes, and interestingly,
by China.
Yes, interestingly, Ambassador Tayal, he seems to be backing the resolution condemning the behavior meted out to the Uyghur community by China. So, he's already made such noises, rather statements vis-a-vis Uyghur community in China. That's a very controversial, I mean, that's the story which continues to grab international attention.
I think it is too early to really say how the policies will shape up, but just the Japanese foreign policy and entire governance is some kind of consensual governance. The Liberal Democratic Party has never been a one-man party. In fact, Shinzo Abe was an exception, and he was quite powerful, but again he had to face many challenges from within the party. So the way Japanese governance is under Liberal Democratic Party, that a lot of the heavyweights of the party sit down and they decide what will be the direction of Japan in economy, in foreign policy, etc. And the scope for the Prime Minister to that extent is rather limited, and it will take time for Fumio Kishida to really assert himself and have his own direction. But I recall that when he was here in 2015, as a Foreign Minister Kishida, at that time he had made some statement saying that Arunachal Pradesh is part of India, which of course it is.
Of course.
And the Chinese had taken strong objection to that. So he knows about India, he knows China's expansionist policies towards India.
Do you see more
good foundation?
Yes, sir.
With Prime Minister Narendra Modi will build a very good equation.
I was coming to that.
Prime Minister Kishida, as we had with the earlier Prime Minister, Mr. Shinzo Abe.
I was just coming to that bit. He maintains that there has to be some sort of consolidation of security ties with the Quad groupings. That's what he has. He's pretty much interested in defense space as well, consolidating that space. Japanese Coast Guard, that needs to be consolidated. So just to put this in perspective, his earlier association with India under Abe and now under Modi government.
I would again say that it should be a continuation of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's policy towards the region and towards India, if we specifically note that. Because he was Foreign Minister under Shinzo Abe for 5 years, 2012 to 17. And so he dealt with both a UPA government in India as well as NDA government in India. The only thing to note which comes in the press is that he is very much against nuclear weapons.
Okay.
So there is a global sort of, among the strategic analysts and experts outside Japan and some in inside Japan, there is a feeling that perhaps given all the challenges facing Japan, Japan should reconsider its policy towards nuclear weapons, but it is unlikely to happen under Fumio Kishida's leadership.
Do you see some sort of final question, sir? Was some sort of policy shift under his leadership? They're staring at general elections also in a month's time. He enjoys, many experts would say, a moderate public support, although the public doesn't have a say in the way his elevation took place, but in near future, or he will not, I mean, he will just test waters, because post Abe we have seen the kind of instability in Japan. Abe was the longest running Prime Minister, then Suga came and within a year he couldn't deliver, and now his appointment as the next Prime Minister.
Before Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, there have been frequent changes of Prime Ministers in Japan. So yes, the first priority for incoming Prime Minister Kishida would be to ensure that the Liberal Democratic Party wins the elections which are about to, in a month or two, they are to take place. And after that only he will really set the direction of his policies. And it will be a holding operation till then, and he will try to garner more and more support within the party, because his main contestant were almost the same number of in the first voting. Mr. Paro got almost the same number, only one vote less than Mr. Kishida.
Yes.
And so he has to consolidate his support within LDP, and then go on as a leader of LDP to win the elections. And after that only, perhaps he will be able to focus more on the policy directions which he would like to give to Japan under his premiership.
All right, we'll leave it there. Many thanks, Ambassador Teal, Senior Diplomat, for joining us on the show, sir. Really pleasure talking to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And now on Midday Prime, it's time to move on to our next story, that is developing story. Shifting focus to Punjab politics. As the political crisis deepens in Punjab, Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi has called a cabinet meeting to resolve the crisis. Sidhu's resignation came as a jolt to the party, with the assembly elections just less than 5 months away. Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi has said that he has spoken to Navjot Singh Sidhu on phone line and has asked him to resolve the issue.
प्रधान होता है पार्टी का, वो हेड होता है, तो हेड ने परिवार में बैठकर अपनी मजबूती से बात रखकर अपनी बातों को आगे लेकर आना होता है। सो मैंने आज भी सिद्धू साहब से टेलीफोन पे बात की है कि पार्टी सुप्रीम होती है, सरकार पार्टी की आइडियोलॉजी को मानती है और उसके ऊपर चलती है। आप आओ, बैठकर बात करो, जिस तरीके से आपको कोई गलतियां लग रही हैं वो पहले भी आप कर सकते थे, आप भी कर सकते।
And just today after his resignation, Congress leader Navjot Singh Sidhu has released a video statement on Twitter. He's referred to a compromise with issues and agenda in Punjab as the reason behind his resignation as Punjab Congress president. In a strong message to the party high command, Sidhu has said that he can't disguise high command, nor can he left them being disguised.
17 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਰਾਜਨੀਤਿਕ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਇੱਕ ਮਕਸਦ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ, ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਕਰਨਾ, ਟੂ ਮੇਕ ਅ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਸ, ਔਰ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਰਾਜਨੀਤੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਟੈਂਡ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਖੜਨਾ। ਇਹੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਧਰਮ ਸੀ, ਇਹੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਸੀ। ਮੇਰੀ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਕਿੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੀ, ਨਾ ਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਲੜਾਈਆਂ ਲੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਮੇਰੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਹੈ, ਮਸਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਪੱਖੀ ਇੱਕ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਦੀ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝੌਤਾ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਮੈਂ ਨਾ ਤੇ ਹਾਈ ਕਮਾਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਗੁੰਮਰਾਹ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਗੁੰਮਰਾਹ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਸਕਦਾ।
So, Congress leader meanwhile, Manish Tiwari has expressed deep distress over the Punjab Congress crisis, saying that Navjot Singh Sidhu could not handle the responsibility that was given to him by the people of the party.
मुझे इस बात को कहने में कोई संकोच नहीं है कि जिन लोगों को जिम्मेदारी दी गई थी वो पंजाब की जो संवेदनशीलता है, पंजाब का जो एक बहुत संगीन परिस्थिति है, वो पंजाब को समझ नहीं पाए।
Akanksha Saxena joining us from Chandigarh to bring us up to speed with the latest developments in the Congress camp. Akanksha, now taking a cue from Manish Tiwari's statement, it seems obviously that his resignation has not gone down well with the party, and it's like they're simply saying that he could not shoulder the responsibilities. What happens next? I mean, it's adding more to the party troubles in Punjab, where party once had in fact one of the longest running chief ministers, and now it's all in shambles in a way.
The storm in the party is getting stronger and stronger. Each day, each passing thing is making it difficult for Punjab Congress. And today, CM Channi also took a press conference after the cabinet meeting. After the regular work and everything, he was asked about what about Navjot Singh Sidhu. So he says that the president of party is the head of the family. And the head of the family should sit and strongly talk it out, whatever the concern is. And Channi said that I have spoken to Navjot Singh Sidhu and we will work it out, we will sit down and we will talk and resolve whatever the problem is there within the party. But certainly what you have been saying, Sakal, that Manish Tiwari and other prominent leaders within the Congress are worried. They are worried because the elections are just some few months away.
Right.
With all the fiasco happening in Congress, things don't seem to be right. It doesn't give a good message.
And this is obviously not a good message in terms of consolidating the cadres, because you're just 5 months away from the elections. Is this just for optics, Akanksha, or the party has some sort of backdoor parlay / talks with Sidhu to appease him and try to get back in the fold?
See, for that matter, I'll tell you that from yesterday onwards, see 3:30, somewhere that time, Sidhu had resigned. And yesterday was the day that the portfolios were also assigned to the newly designated ministers, and they were just taking over. But again, some few who were confidants of Sidhu, they just left in a buff, and they all went to him at his residence. And then one minister, Razia Sultana, she resigned yesterday. She's very close to Navjot Singh Sidhu. And another minister, Pargat Singh, also was rumored that he has given his resignation. Later on, he cleared it out that no, I have not given resignation and I am going to go to Sidhu and I'll talk it over with him. And today also, it is said that some prominent leaders, some prominent MLAs are going to Sidhu and they are trying to resolve the issue. Maybe, and Delhi also, I think, probably has said that you have to resolve the issue yourself and you have to take the call yourself. Sidhu is angry, Sidhu doesn't want some appointments, but he should come and talk about it and not just quit like this.
Akanksha, what's the sense? What's the understanding that you are getting? Sidhu says it's not personal, it's only for issues, and he chooses to release a video rather than talk to the party, and then the party can decide what they want to do next. What seems to be the major contention tussle here? It's all about power.
See, yes, I think the point is all together. You have been seeing that Sidhu has been putting the pressure tactics to, at the high command. Right from being the president, PPCC, he was not the choice. At that point in time, Captain Amrinder Singh also opposed him given the post. And after that also he had been pressurizing the high command, the Congress command there in Delhi, that the chief ministership should be changed. And see, this again is quite very, this is again a pressure tactic kind of a thing, and he's not spoken about it to anybody, and it's not gone well neither in Punjab Congress and nor with the centre command.
All right, Akanksha, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with the latest developments in Punjab, in the Congress camp. Thank you for joining us. We'll be in touch with you later in the day as well. Thanks. And now on developing story, it's time to move on to the next segment, that is National Prime segment. Well, due to the formation of Cyclone Gulab in the Bay of Bengal, some districts of North Maharashtra, Marathwada and Vidarbha of Maharashtra have been receiving incessant rains since the last few days, and as a result, rivers and streams have been flooded and connectivity to many villages has been badly hampered. Now, Thane district has been raining continuously since morning. Bhiwandi and other rural areas of the district have been receiving intermittent torrential rains, due to which many roads have been submerged. Traffic has slowed down due to waterlogging in many low-lying areas. District disaster management team has been rescuing the villagers since morning, and in a view of the seriousness of the situation, the district administration has started relief work with the help of NDRF. Rescue operations are being carried out with the help of helicopters, where people being trapped in the flood are being rescued. District administration has also instructed the people living on the banks of river to be alerted. In the next 24 hours, heavy to very heavy rainfall is likely to occur over Marathwada, Madhya Maharashtra and Konkan. Yes, let's quickly go across to Yogesh and get a quick update on the situation, especially in Mumbai, Maharashtra's adjoining areas, worst affected areas. Yogesh, over to you. What's the latest and what's the forecast for the next 48 hours?
Shakal, so far around 600 people have been rescued from these regions, particularly in Marathwada and some districts of Vidarbha region. These are severely affected. Apart from these regions, also Nashik and Dhule, these districts are also affected. We know that the dam and reservoirs in most of the districts in this region are overflowing, prompting the authorities overflowing above the danger level, and prompting the authorities to take necessary measures. And that's the reason why why a few gates of these dams have been opened, like in Mazra in Osmanabad, also Majalgaon in Beed district, Gangapur Dam in Nasik. These some gates are opened, and in turn this water have been rescued, and the waters are creating problems in the village. Basically the crops are now damaged, and that is the main concern of the authorities, also from the government authorities, because we know that Dhule and Nasik, these are the two districts basically known for onion production. Apart from that, the Marathwada, we know that soybean and also other crops like cotton, also sugarcane, tur, urad, these are the products, these are the crops basically that are cultivated there, and these are severely affected. Now the ministers, the concerning ministers, and also the guardian minister, basically talking precisely about Nashik, then Chhagan Bhujbal is reviewing the situation over there. Also, Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar, he had a meeting with the authorities and just instructed them to take appropriate actions to ensure that no more casualties are done. Around 10 casualties have been officially reported. Apart from that, what we are getting from the sources, that more people also, the number can may go up also. Apart from that, NDRF, there are two teams of NDRF, one in Osmanabad and one in Latur. These two deployments as of now is confirmed, and the NDRF is also already taking stock of the situation. So as far as next 24 hours is concerned, you are rightly said that next 24 hours is going to be very important for Marathwada region as well as Vidarbha, and also for the Konkan region, because heavy to heavy rainfall have been predicted by the IMD.
Okay, so heavy rainfall predictions for the next 24 hours. Thank you very much, Yogesh, for bringing us up to speed with on the weather front there. And we stay with the IMD update as well. Now let's get you some COVID update now. Nationwide COVID-19 vaccination drive. Let's look at the numbers that are stacked. As of now, the COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 87 crore. Over 87 crore 66 lakh vaccine doses have been administered across the country so far. Over 54.13 lakh vaccine doses have been administered in the last 24 hours. And also an update now on the COVID-19 numbers from across the country. As per the new data released by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the recovery of 28,178 patients in the last 24 hours has increased the cumulative tally of recovered patients to 3 crore 29 lakh 86,000 plus. Consequently, India's recovery rate has also increased to 97.83%. India has reported daily new cases less than 20,000. 18,870 new cases, to be more precise, have been reported in the last 24 hours. The active caseload presently stands at 2,82,520, which is lowest in 194 days. Active cases account for less than 1% of the total cases, currently at 0.84%, which is lowest since March 2020. Weekly positivity rate stands at 1.82%, which is less than 3% for the last 96 days. Daily positivity rate reported to be 1.25%, which is less than 3% for the last 30 days. Also, the good news is that the testing capacity across the country continues to be expanded. India has so far conducted over 56.74 crore cumulative tests, out of which over 15 lakh tests conducted have only been in fact conducted in the last 24 hours. 15 lakh tests conducted in the last 24 hours. And recoveries have also crossed 28,000 mark in the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of recoveries to 3 crore 29 lakh 86,000 plus, and the recovery rate at the best possible 97.83%. Plus 18,870 new cases reported in the last 24 hours. So the recovery rate is going up, with which India's active caseload now stands at only 2,82,000. Moving on to other news and updates we are tracking for you on Midday Prime. BJP President JP Nadda addressed Shakti Kendra conveners and in charges of Uttarakhand in the BJP ahead of the assembly polls in the state. BJP chief appealed to booth workers to join the campaign to strengthen the booth. Nadda has also informed that Char Dham all-weather road is expected to be completed by 2022.
सभी जिलों में एवं मंडलों में भाजपा के संपूर्ण कार्यकारिणी का गठन हो चुका है। हमारे पूर्व राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष और समर्पित कार्यकर्ता श्रद्धेय कुशाभाऊ ठाकरे जी के जन्म शताब्दी आने वाली है। मैं कार्यकर्ताओं से निवेदन करना चाहता हूं कि आप सब बूथ को मजबूत करने के अभियान से जुड़े, बूथ से जुड़े जो कार्य आपको दिए गए हैं उन्हें आप जल्द से जल्द पूरा करें।
Nada has also expressed hope that the BJP will win with huge majority under the leadership of Pushkar Singh Dhami in upcoming polls there.
मैं भाजपा में अपनी आस्था जताने और माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में देश में चल रही विकास यात्रा में भागीदारी बनने के लिए मैं उत्तराखंड की महान जनता को हाथ जोड़कर कोटि कोटि वंदन करता हूं, उनको धन्यवाद देता हूं, उनको साधुवाद देता हूं। श्री पुष्कर सिंह धामी जी के नेतृत्व में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के मार्गदर्शन में जिस तरह से उत्तराखंड के विकास की धारा बही है, इससे हमें पूर्ण विश्वास है कि इस बार के विधानसभा में भी राज्य की जनता का आशीर्वाद और प्यार भारतीय जनता पार्टी को प्राप्त होगा और भारी बहुमत से राज्य में एक बार पुनः भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार बनेगी।
Well, author and academic Raghavendra Tanwar has called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet and he said, let's show the tweet, and I quote, had an outstanding discussion with author and academic Raghavendra Tanwar. He spoke to me about his work on India's partition as well as other aspects relating to history. He is a fine mind and I'm glad to see his passion towards history, unquote. That's Honorable Prime Minister's tweet after meeting Raghavendra Tanwar, who called on the Prime Minister today. And on Midday Prime, it's time to get your news and updates from the world of business. And for that, Tanvi joins us from our Delhi studios for Business Prime. Tanvi, over to you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Sakal. Good afternoon to you. Well, following yesterday's fall, the domestic stock markets have again rolled weak on Wednesday, but are off day's lows, with the benchmark indices recovering lost ground in afternoon deals. So the Sensex at the BSE had dropped 51 points, so 0.1% to 59,617 a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange has managed to add 16 points, so 0.1% to 17,762 a little while ago. Similarly, in the broader market, the BSE mid-cap index had managed to climb 0.7%, while the small-cap index had gained 0.3%. The top index losers so far on the BSE are Ultratech Cement, HDFC, Kotak Mahindra, Asian Paints and ICICI Bank, with losses of between 1.2% and 1.8%. The top index gainers are NTPC, Sun Pharma, Power Grid Corporation, SBI and Tata Steel, with gains of between 1.1 and 5.2%. Most other key Asian markets have also lost considerable ground on Wednesday and were set for their worst quarter since the coronavirus pandemic hit. Worries about economic growth in China, combined with fears of a global slowdown and a strong dollar, pushed stock markets lower. So MSCI's broadest index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan fell 0.8% and was heading for a 9.4% decline for the third quarter. Japan's Nikkei 225 index had slumped 2.1%, South Korea's Kospi index had lost 1.2% and China's Shanghai Composite Index had dropped 1.8%. But Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index had gained 0.4%. One factor sapping the mood in Asia was China's worsening power crunch, which pushed investors out of Chinese stocks vulnerable to factory shutdowns. The energy troubles follow turmoil in China's property sector as investors closely watch the fate of indebted property developer Evergrande and regulatory changes in education and technology sectors there. Moving on, over on Wall Street, US stocks took a beating on Tuesday, with technology stocks leading the way lower. The Nasdaq Composite Index plunged 2.8%, The S&P 500 slumped 2% and the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1.6%. Analysts said that the prospect of higher energy prices and fueling inflation, rise in bond yields have prompted widespread selling across global stock markets. A new disappointing report in consumer confidence in September added to the risk-off mood in US market. And very quickly, let's update you on the global energy market. Global crude oil prices fell on Wednesday after US crude inventories unexpectedly rose as doubts over demand resurfaced, with COVID-19 cases continuing to increase worldwide and some regions facing gasoline shortages. So Brent crude was down $1.34 or 1.7% at $77.75 a barrel. On Tuesday, Brent had touched its highest level in almost 3 years. US oil dropped $1.38 or 1.8% to $73.91 a barrel. Back home, the market regulator, Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, announced a slew of big-ticket decisions on Tuesday. These include laying a framework for setting up a gold exchange and social stock exchanges, and changes to delisting norms to make mergers and acquisitions more rational, as well as to lay superior voting rights aimed at deepening the securities market. Under the framework for gold exchange, electronic gold receipts EGR will be available for trading on the existing stock exchanges. Like shares, these EGRs will be held in demat form and can be converted to physical gold when needed. This will help in providing investor security. Further, SEBI also approved a separate framework for social stock exchanges for the listing of non-profit organizations and for-profit social enterprises that are engaged in 15 broad eligible social activities approved by the market regulator. The social entities can raise funds through equity, issue of zero coupon, zero principal bonds, mutual funds, and so on. In its board meeting on Tuesday, SEBI also allowed mutual fund houses to introduce silver exchange traded funds, that's ETFs, in the Indian market. Gold, along with silver, as you all know, has been a preferred investment class for scores of Indians over the past many decades now. So quickly, let's tell you how the multi-commodity exchange is doing right now. Gold had gained 27 rupees to 45,880 rupees per 10 grams, but silver had declined 480 rupees to 59,984 rupees per kilo. And at the interbank forex market, the rupee had weakened 13 paise against the dollar in opening deals on Wednesday, tracking weak domestic equities. Later in afternoon deals, the rupee had depreciated 11 paise to 74 rupees 16 paise against the dollar. So that's it in Business Prime for the moment. For other news and updates coming in, let's go back to Sakal. Sakal, over to you.
Thank you, Tanvi. And after Business Prime, let's take a look at what's happening and making news from across the globe. So US President Joe Biden has shared a video of first ever in-person Quad Leaders Summit, which just concluded a few days back. Joe Biden has said that they are committed to their partnership and to an Indo-Pacific region that is free, open, inclusive and resilient. He also said that proud to say that we are making excellent progress. On September 24th, remember, President Joe Biden hosted Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga at the White House for the first ever in-person Leaders Summit of the Quad. Take a look.
You're welcome, Prime Minister Morrison, Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister Suga, for the first in-person meeting of the Quad we've had. We're 4 major democracies with a long history of cooperation. We know how to get things done, and we are up to the challenge. I'm proud to say that we're making excellent progress. We ready to go to work? Absolutely.
Staying with international news, US Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, has said that the US missed warning signs about the coming failure of the leadership and will in its Afghan allies that ultimately led to their collapse and the Taliban takeover on 15th of August. Milley made the remarks in testimony to the Senate Armed Services Committee, where he and US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin were questioned by Republicans and Democrats about the chaotic aftermath of the US withdrawal. Republican lawmakers accused President Biden of lying about recommendations from his military that some troops should be kept in the country. And even Biden's Democrats expressed frustration with the withdrawal that left US troops dead and American citizens behind.
I think the key, Senator, that we missed, frankly, we had some indicators, but we didn't have the full, wholesome assessment of leadership, morale, and will. There were some units, and I don't want to say negative things about these guys. There's 60, 70,000 of the Afghan service that were killed in action over the last 20 years. And many units did fight at the very end. But the vast majority put their weapons down and melted away in a very, very short period of time. I think that has to do with will, leadership, and I think we still need to try to figure out exactly why that was. And I have some suggestions, but I'm not settled on them yet. But we clearly missed that. I think one of the key factors we missed it for was we pulled our advisors off 3 years ago.
Moving on to North Korea, the country has claimed that it has successfully tested a new hypersonic missile called Hwasong-8 on Tuesday. Now, the state media says the new missile was one of the 5 most important new weapon systems laid out in its 5-year military development plan. They call the new missile a strategic weapon, which usually means it has nuclear capabilities. Tuesday's launch is another indication of Pyongyang's growing weapons technology amid strict sanctions. The latest launch also marks the country's 3rd missile test this month. It has already revealed a new type of cruise missile as well as a new train-launched ballistic missile system. According to South Korea's military, North Korea fired the missile towards the sea off its east coast as Pyongyang called on the US and South Korea to scrap their double standards on weapons programs to restart diplomatic talks. North Korea has been steadily developing its weapons systems amid an impasse over talks aimed at dismantling its nuclear and ballistic missile arsenals in return for US sanctions itself. Well, taking an update from Spain's Cumbre volcanic eruption, red-hot lava from a volcano that devastated the Spanish island of La Palma reached the Atlantic Ocean late Tuesday evening, 9 days after it started to flow down the mountain, wrecking buildings and destroying crops. Spain's government has clarified the island of La Palma has a disaster zone on Tuesday, a move set to trigger emergency subsidies and other support measures. Lava has been flowing down the volcano's western flank towards the sea since September 19th, and it has destroyed almost 600 houses in banana plantations in La Palma, which neighbors Tenerife in Canary Islands of the North African coast. Thousands have been evacuated. 3 coastal villages were locked down on Monday in anticipation of the lava meeting the Atlantic Ocean. Spain has classified La Palma as a disaster zone yesterday, a move that will trigger financial support for the island. And now it's time for the stories coming in from the world of sports. And Deepika is there with all the action coming in from the world of sports and sportsman. Deepika, good afternoon. Over to you.
Good afternoon. Let's quickly take a look at all what is happening in the world of sports. And starting with football, Liverpool cruised to another emphatic victory in Porto with Mohamed Salah and Roberto Firmino both scoring twice as the Reds won 5-1 in the Champions League. Jurgen Klopp's side was superb throughout as they maintained their 100% start in the competition with memories of 4-1 and 5-0 victories in recent campaigns fresh in the mind. They delivered a performance brimming with pace, precision and energy.
Well, moving on, Real Madrid slumped to a 2-1 defeat by Moldovan side Sheriff Tiraspol in the Champions League on Tuesday as the visitors pulled off one of the biggest shocks in the competition's history with a stunning 89th minute strike from Sebastian Thiel. Champions League debutants Sheriff went ahead against the 13 times European champions in the 25th minute with a header from Uzbek midfielder Jasurbek Yakhshibov, who narrowly missed a chance to double their lead later in the first half. The Spaniards looked set to go on to win the game after Benzema levelled from the spot. A real winner looked inevitable, but instead it came down the other end when Thiel tried his luck from the edge of the box, scoring the most important goal in his club's brief history. And moving on, Lionel Messi scored his first Paris Saint-Germain goal in stunning fashion as they beat Manchester City in an enthralling Champions League group game. Messi, making his fourth appearance for PSG since leaving Barcelona, ran from the halfway line before playing a 1-2 with Kylian Mbappe and leaving Ederson rooted to the spot with a lovely 20-yard shot. That was his 7th goal in 5 Champions League games against teams managed by Pep Guardiola, his former Barcelona boss, and his 7th goal against City. And moving on to cricket now, in IPL today, Royal Challengers Bangalore will be up against Rajasthan Royals. A confident RCB, after thrashing defending champions Mumbai Indians, will be aiming to maintain the winning streak when they take the field against Rajasthan Royals. RCB, led by Virat Kohli, have 12 points from 10 matches, and their place in the playoffs will be almost confirmed by defeating Rajasthan Royals. Royals, on the other hand, have 8 points from 10 matches, and it will be no less than a do-or-die situation for them. And in tennis, one of the youngest US Open champion and tennis sensation, Emma Raducanu, has been allowed a wild card entry into the WTA Indian Wells tournament that is scheduled to start in California from next week. Emma will be making her debut at the rescheduled event, which is slated for the 4th to 17th of October. That's all in sports for now. Over to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Deepika. Thank you for joining us on Sports Prime on Midday Prime. And before we wrap up, it's time for our next segment, Live Prime, wherein we bring to you stories from the world of art, culture, cinema, fashion, innovation. These are the stories that will make you smile. These are the stories that change lives. So from Marty McFly's hoverboard in Back to the Future Part 2 to a Stormtrooper helmet worn in Return of the Jedi, a huge selection of movie memorabilia worth whopping $7.5 million will be auctioned in London in November. More than 1,000 lots made up of costumes, props and other items are expected to fetch more than £5.5 million at the November 9th to 11th auction by film and television memorabilia company Prop Store. The auction items include a full-size T-800 endoskeleton from Terminator 2, Judgment Day, that's a popular movie, Sean Connery's James Bond suit from You Only Live Twice, and Brad Pitt's 8,000 to 12,000 actually sword from Troy. And Christian Dior showcased a burst of colorful 1960s and 70s flavored mini dresses as crowds returned to its hometown show at the Paris Fashion Week. Guests and onlookers gathered to watch the stream of arrivals, which included K-pop star Jisoo. Now, dozens of brands will showcase their collections to in-person audiences in the French capital through October 5th. The designer drew on the house's collections under the creative leadership of Mark Bohan, who was known for modernizing styles by loosening stilettos in 1960s and 1970s. So burst of bold colors by Dior, which will be seen in the most popular Paris Fashion Week. And on that note, it's time to wrap up this edition of Midday Prime. We'll be back with more. Meanwhile, news updates continue on your channel DD India. Stay with us. Stay safe.